Hi, so welcome back, guys. I'm going to take you on a journey on how to learn to become self-sufficient and how you can do it while still living in the city, because that's what I'm doing. I'm planning to move off-grid, and there's a range of skills that I've been learning and practicing for being able to live off-grid and be self-sustainable. So we'll start with the garden. People that know me knows that I love gardening. I've been growing my own veggies for a while, and people always ask me, how do you do it, especially in Windhoek where the ground is not that fertile. The thing about planting and about growing, it's not so much about the plants and understanding the plants, though that is a factor and we'll go through that at some other time. But the foundation is actually the soil. It's about the life in the soil. So I'm going to take you through a few things that I do. Take care of your soil. The rest will take care of itself. See, this is what I've got netted up as my garden. This is now my third setup. The way I started was that my sons and I took a bit of ground over here, took out the ground, sifted all the rocks out. This is all the rocks. We got a lot of big boulders out of the ground that we ended up using as a pathway. And then here is more of the boulders that we got out of the ground and have made it into a wall for another garden block, which I've previously used for growing my corn. I'll show in a picture. And here I'm busy setting up a new spot, which I also had done last year. I had built a garden here, but then the municipality had to do some work here. They destroyed my garden that was here, and so we're starting again. That's one of the things that I love about gardening, the lessons that it teaches you about renewal and starting over again. It's the natural process of the seasons. The system sort of teaches us that you need to just keep going, keep going. One failure, it's like a catastrophe. But the things about the garden is that it teaches us it's okay and it's part of the process. Gardening is a beautiful lesson for that. So anyway, back to the life in the ground. So the thing about the soil is that the soil actually needs various types of life in it. You get your bacteria, you get fungi, you get microbes. You need biomass for all of those things to live on. You need to understand that it's all about the life in the soil. So building compost is one of those things that you need to learn. Mulching is another thing. Mulch is basically like leaves is perfect. The garden centers normally sell the tree bark bits, but I don't really like that because as it breaks down, it takes a lot of nitrogen out of the ground, firstly, and secondly, it doesn't really feed the soil. So the purpose of mulch, part of it is to reduce evaporation. It creates shade on the ground and your soil stays moist. If the soil is moist, then that helps to keep the life in the soil living and good. But I prefer doing leaves and flowers that fall from my trees, because not only does it keep the ground protected and covered, but it also feeds the ground over time. So I'm going to show you my compost. I've done it a couple of ways through the years. This is what I've got at the moment. So I've got this little pond in the front. So you'll see it just looks like a whole lot of dry stuff. But if I scratch down through here, you'll see it's all becoming really awesome compostable ground. So this stuff is really rich because my garden waste as well as my kitchen waste goes in here. I'm going to start with showing you the condition of my garden now. Like I said previously, we're going to go through the good, the bad and the ugly, and we're going to start with the ugly. Here I've got bell peppers that's from the previous season, and then my tomatoes, which I'll show you what they did look like. This is what they look like now. So you can see it does not look great. There's still a few tomatoes on here, but all of this will come back again. You can see
this tomato stalk is actually like really nicely established, nice and strong. I've got my sweet potatoes. This used to also be like really full and lush here, but all these vines, one can just replant this. You can actually cut it off, like say you were to cut it over here and put this whole thing, this lower stalk over there, put this lower stalk into the ground, cover it here with the soil, and this will root down and it will put out sweet potatoes for you. This is what you call a sweet potato slip. This is where the sweet potato puts out new roots. These vines have the potential to be new slips and can cut and replant, and that's how you get more sweet potatoes. And this is the nice orange sweet potatoes. I'm sure under here is a whole lot more. Here's my eggplant. Here's a mulberry that's growing from a cutting, and my basil. Look at that. Does not look great, but it's okay. They're all gonna come back again. And parsley and tomato growing together here. So we'll see over time as the garden progresses and develops. And another thing is living in a place like Windhoek where water is scarce and expensive. So I went to Westpac and I got, I can point properly, this guy, a dustbin, which collects water from my roof. My bougainvillea drops a lot of flowers, which I like to use as mulch. So let me show you what that looks like. So see all of this. Here's all the flowers that have been dropped by the bougainvilleas, and I collect all of that as mulch for my garden. Oh, I just noticed now my potatoes are starting to come out. Look at that. Yay. Okay, so I've got all the mulch down. Let's take a look. So you'll notice I didn't put any of it down by the sweet potato, because with the sweet potato it tends to rot. As this rots down and breaks down, then these vines, the vines will actually rot together with it. So now my garden's basically ready for the rainy season to start. So this, as the rain comes, it's going to keep the ground nice and moist, and all the earthworms and the microbiome and the fungi and all of those things will reproduce, will get a whole lot more life, and the ground will get nice and fertile again. I mean, it is still fairly fertile, but it'll be that much more fertile for my seeds. And then I'll take you through the process of once I start planting seeds. But the stuff that's already here, you'll see how they all come back to life. Hopefully we'll have some stuff to harvest. So this was not a very planned out video. I'm basically just winging it, doing what I know I needed to do in the garden, and showed you a few things about my garden. It's not going to be perfect, and there's stuff that doesn't look great, but at the same time this also shows if I can do it, you can do it. So if you have any questions or any topics you want me to cover, anything that you've struggled with in your garden, put it in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to read and address in future videos. I hope that you found this useful and that there's some information that you can use. If not, then also just I hope you enjoy the journey. So bye.